What if a majority of the YouTube self-help content that you have been consuming is actually doing for you the exact opposite of what it is that you're looking for? This is something that I've been noticing as a theme, and I'm going to explore this in depth to help people understand what I personally believe is going on. There's going to be a few different things I'm going to utilize to really dive into the fabric of all of this to make this make sense. A lot of this, well, all of this actually is going to be based in psychology. The first thing that I'm going to look at is the model of instant gratification and actually how that parallels to, in psychoanalytic theory, the pleasure principle of the id. I talk about these different things many times in other videos, and I'm going to do the best that I can to make this make sense, because it's actually very interesting. And let me just say, first and foremost, actual change in any individual is possible. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not something that you can just watch one video and it completely changes your life. It might change how you think about things, and that, with time and further insight, can evolve in a very beautiful way, which does lead to profound transformation. But a majority of this stuff, majority of the stuff that is seen on YouTube, is actually doing quite the opposite, and even for deeper reasons than people realize, than what it is that they're looking for. So let's talk about the instant gratification model. There are so many videos on YouTube, and these videos, well, one, in and of itself, YouTube is like a ground for instant gratification. What is instant gratification? Gratification that comes instantly. And I'm going to bring up the pleasure principle in Freudian psychology, which has to deal with the id, the entity that is born in us the very first moment of our lives. It is the id. It is the all or nothing survival-based entity that is born within us. I've talked about that many times in my videos as well. And so the fascinating thing is that the id in and of itself is very much based in instant gratification, survival, all or nothing, life or death. So YouTube in and of itself is foundationally instant gratification. You can go on YouTube and find a video on pretty much anything that you want to. Now, that doesn't mean in and of itself that a video or multiple videos can do for you what it is that you're looking for. If what you're looking for is deep, sustained healing over the course of a very long period of time, well, the very reality of that is that, one, it's not going to happen in one video. Unlikely, at least. I doubt it. Anybody that claims that, I would argue, is a severe fucking red flag, and I would be very careful of any of that kind of stuff. And quite honestly, because YouTube in and of itself is foundationally instant gratification, it can get it can be very easy to, one, find a video that claims that it will change your life forever, period, and also just get stuck inside of this idea that instant gratification is the way. So let's dive further into this. First and foremost, to understand that YouTube in and of itself is very much based around instant gratification. There are many videos out there that claim that they will change your life forever. Again, red flag territory, severely. The next thing to understand is that the pleasure principle in Freudian psychology, which very much has to deal with the id, the dynamic of the id is based in pleasure. It does not like pain. It does what it needs to do to get rid of it at all and any costs. The id entity is not a reliable basis for change and transformation, because all it gives a fuck about is pleasure. It wants to get rid of pain at all costs because it sees pain as bad. Pain is not bad. Pain is just pain. But the other thing to understand about the id in and of itself, as I've talked about before in other videos, the id is based in black or white thinking, like I've said before. Life or death, survival-based thinking, all or nothing, this or that. Anytime that you see that kind of stuff, black or white, it's based in the id. You're either this or you're that, all or nothing. And that's the reality of it. And so now let me make this gets even more and more interesting. And like the more videos that I watch, because I'm very interested in the reality of these videos and what they actually do for people, which is, and I'm about to explain that, actually keep them stagnated inside of a structure of emotional immaturity. It's just the way that it is. And I'll explain this in what I would argue to be a very simple way. So going back to the entity, the first entity that is born in every single individual in infancy, the id, the pleasure principle, the all or nothing, life or death, good or bad dynamic. That is seen in a lot of content on YouTube where people are talking about how to be a real man. The issue with this, let me make this very clear. It's not good or bad, or right or wrong. It's just, let's look at what it is doing for the person. It's leading them away from a healthier ego state and back into black or white thinking, back into the entity of the id. Because again, the id is all or nothing, black or white, good or bad, life or death, this or that. This content that a lot of people see on YouTube where these people create these ideas that you're either a real man or you're not, black or white, id, entity, emotional immaturity, all or nothing, life or death, survival-based thinking. That's where that is. So these people that are teaching you how to be a real man are teaching you basically how to stay emotionally stagnated at a level of emotional immaturity. It's not good or bad, right or wrong. There's no judgment here. There's no shame. There's no guilt. I'm just looking at everything for what it is. They're teaching you to stay here. But now let me go even further into this and make this make sense, because this is even another deeper aspect of all of this. I would argue that many people, if not like a majority percentage, somewhere between like 75 and 95%. I'm not claiming fact or truth in any of these numbers. This is just based on my own exploration, my own diving into the fabric, the content, the material. Anybody that has a serious online presence, the internet in and of itself is a place of instant gratification. You can find anything that you want there, even if it's not true. And of course, people that live inside of, biases, and they find things that prove that even though whatever it is that they're believing or thinking is complete fucking bullshit, they will find proof that it's real. This is one of the biggest issues of the internet. The internet in and of itself is like a model of instant gratification. Id. The id craves instant gratification. So my other, I can't really call this hypothesis or theory. My other belief is that people that are going on YouTube and looking for content, again, absolutely no judgment or shame here, no guilt. I'm just trying to see everything for what it is, and at least for what I believe it is. Because I would rather see it for what it is than be distracted by what it's not. So people that go on the internet and seek information, there is truth out there. on the internet, but there's a whole fuck ton of a lot of misinformation. And there's also a whole fuck ton of a lot of content that will actually keep you emotionally stagnated. That's the reality of that. So let's look at this for what I believe it is. Again, not claiming fact or truth here, just looking at it. If the foundation of the internet is like instant gratification because you can find fucking anything that you want to at your fingertips in minutes, even less than that, whether it's true or not, that would also entail a necessary look at the parallel between the id, the survival, life or death, black or white entity, and also just the reality that anybody that is emotionally stagnated, emotionally immature, is likely to seek based on that. That's the way that it is. If you see things in life in a black or white way, in an all or nothing way, good or bad, right or wrong, when, quite honestly, life itself, the world, people are far more fucking complex than that. But that doesn't matter, because when you're emotionally stagnated, you see things in a black or white way, in a very rigid this or that way. And people that do that also seek based on that. So they also seek based on this belief that their life can transform like that in an instant way, gratifying that need because of the pleasure principle. But it's fascinating because, yeah, this video is going to be a bit on the longer side, and quite honestly, I might even make a part 2 to this because this is just such fascinating shit. A majority of the content that I have consumed on YouTube and just like everywhere else on the internet has been very much based in black or white thinking. You're either this or you're that. You're either a real man or you're not. You're either everything or you're nothing. What is the issue with this? Well, one, it's just not healthy. It's not an accurate way of looking at anyone or anything. And it's very important to understand that. And the other thing, too, is that a lot of this content is aimed at leading a person, any person, in a direction that will evolve them. But if the content is based in emotionally stagnated material, black or white thinking, to its severest form, the id, the survival-based life or death, all or nothing entity, how exactly is that evolving somebody? So let me just make this very clear, because I think that before I end off this video in the next like 5 or so minutes, I need to make this very well understood. The healthiest direction that anybody can take for themselves is that of understanding that we were all traumatized. It doesn't matter how much or how little you were traumatized. You were traumatized. If you want to better your life, you can. It's not going to happen from one video. You might get an insight that will help you understand things better, but that also requires you going into deep healing sessions with yourself alone, and maybe even like with people, and actually doing the work to heal. But anything that tells you that what you need to do to evolve in a healthy way is to become a real man, that's just the label. That's just a construct. And quite honestly, it's based in black or white thinking, because you're either a real man or you're not. No, people are far more complex than that. Getting closer to the understanding of a healthy ego state. Because when you look at Freudian psychology, psychoanalytic theory, the id, as I've been talking about, the ego state, and the superego All of these entities need to be understood in terms of being able to create a healthier path forward for yourself. Not just for yourself, your fucking identity. What you might not realize, and I'm genuinely not trying to gaslight anybody here, but what you might not realize is that this whole idea of becoming a real man and doing all these things that you need to do to be a real man, this is just a label. But that label in and of itself is based in black or white thinking. And people are far more complex than black or white thinking. People are neither good nor bad. They're just people. And it's not just that they're just people, they're complex. People are complex. People are far too complex for black or white thinking. Black or white thinking was in infancy. If somebody evolves in a healthy way, they move outside of black or white thinking. They move beyond it. They don't see people as good or bad. They don't see men, they don't see a biological man as either a real man or not. They see a biological man with all of his complexities. They don't see him as good or bad, or as good or bad. They see him as a man. They see him as a human. They understand that he is not perfect. But they also understand that he is not nothing. Same goes for women. It's the same structure. And so I think I'll recap a few of these things before ending off, but I need to make this very clear. Long-term sustained change in one's life literally requires deep healing, a deep understanding of self, a deep understanding of everything that happened in childhood, which is exactly what created the person that they are now. You can watch a million fucking YouTube videos, and I will be honest and say that there is content out there that's good. Again, when I say good, I'm not really referring to the black or white thinking. Content that is insightful, content that gives direction, and that's helpful. But a majority of all of this stuff is based in black or white thinking. And here, let me just say this real quick to end this off. The reason why it's so easily sellable for people is because people that do not have a healthy constructed identity are insecure. It's not good or bad or right or wrong, it's just not healthy. And so, because they're likely stagnated in black or white thinking emotionally, they fall for this idea that they need to give in to somebody that tells them, oh, I don't know, stop being a pussy and be a real man. It's everywhere on the internet. I'm probably not the first person to say that. And because you're insecure and because you don't understand, no shame, no guilt, no judgment, it's just where you are, you give into that. But it's also because you're emotionally immature that you see things in a black or white way. So that's why it's kind of like a vicious cycle. That's why it's easy to get stuck inside of this content that actually doesn't take you anywhere, except a reinforcement of everything that you've always believed. Oh, you don't know who you are? Let me show you who you are. They don't have the answer. They don't. Especially if they're trying to tell you, this is how you become a real man. Get over your pussy shit and learn how to man up and do all these things and become an alpha male. Right. Now, it's bullshit. It is. I see it for what it is. I communicate it for what it is. It's all emotional immaturity. And it's unfortunate because there are a lot of people out there that are leading people into this direction. It's not even like into a direction. Like it's like let's look at it this way. Imagine, I swear I'll end off with this. And I'll probably put more in a part 2. Imagine this is where like a mass of people are right here. This is the id, the emotional immaturity element, the all or nothing life or death entity. This is the ego state. This is the superego right here. The development of this ego state for people that are emotionally immature or even like exceedingly emotionally immature is very underdeveloped. And because of that, they don't really know who the fuck they are. And because of that, they're likely to give into things and people, information that reinforce the black or white, all or nothing, life or death, survival based dynamic that they are very used to because they were emotionally stagnated there. And so instead of them getting an actual sincere direction of, hey, you're very caught up in black or white thinking, which is a way too simplistic way of looking at yourself, the people, life, and the world. You're very much caught up in that. But what is necessary instead of trying to become a real man, because you're either a real man or you're not, or you don't exist, let's look at your ego state. Let's look at what fucked you up in childhood. Let's look at all the marring and the scathing. Let's look at you as a complex individual. You're not good or bad or right or wrong. Yeah, there's probably shame there. There's probably guilt there. No, let's look at you for who you are. Forget about the labels. You are a complex individual, and that is quite all right. But no, instead of that, people just get stuck here because of their trauma, and they look for reinforcements of this. And because they see things in a black or white way, it's just they look for the reinforcements that show them the black or white way of thinking. Oh, here's how to become a real man. Don't be insecure. Be a real man. You're either a real man or you're not. And they just stay here. They just stay here with, looking for reinforcements inside of the id, the all or nothing, the good or bad, the this or that way of looking at things, rather than growing and understanding the complexity of self and other and life and people in the world. No, they just stay right here. They continue to seek reinforcements of that. And there's a whole fuck ton of a lot of it here on YouTube. I don't like it. I don't produce stuff that is about that. Instead, I do this and call it out. But that's it. And then it just ends up being a cycle that brings them back to this, back to this, back to this, back to this. Rather than getting to know themselves in a complex way and getting really curious about that. No, they're either a real man or they're not. They need to either be an alpha male or they're nothing. And nobody wants them. Yeah, it's a cycle that just keeps bringing you back to all of that. That's what a majority of this content, as I've seen it, is all about. So, yeah, just wanted to make that clear.